Welcome to the North State Breakdown with Benjamin Nguyen. Today we're going to walk through the Shasta County Board of Supervisors meeting agenda for Tuesday, September 10th, 2024. The agenda is quite large this week with some key decisions that could impact the community, so let's get into it. First, we have R1, a recognition for Craig Isberg, Maintenance Supervisor from the Department of Public Works, as Employee of the Month for September. It is always great to see hard-working public servants acknowledged for their contributions, but we'll move quickly to more substantive issues. Next, we move on to R2, which includes an update from the County Executive Officer on county issues and a discussion of specific legislation related to Shasta County's legislative platform. A particularly important aspect here is a letter of support to the state income tax deductions for fire insurance premiums. With the wildfire risks we face in Shasta County, many homeowners are seeing their fire insurance premiums skyrocket, making it harder for people to protect their homes. This letter could help push for state-level tax deductions to offer residents some financial relief, making those premiums a bit more manageable. This is something many of us living in fire-prone areas are watching closely, and it's good to see the board looking for ways to help ease the financial burden on residents. In R3, the board will consider approving a letter to the City of Redding regarding the future of the Redding Rodeo Grounds. This letter is signed by Supervisor Kevin Cry, Chair of the Shasta County Board of Supervisors, as well as other prominent county officials, including the Sheriff, District Attorney, Assessor Recorder, Auditor Controller, Clerk Registrar of Voters, and the Treasurer Tax Collector. The Redding Rodeo has been held at its current location since 1948, making this year its 76th anniversary. The letter seeks to ensure the long-term preservation of the rodeo grounds, which have become an integral part of Shasta County's identity. The event has a rich history in the community, and the grounds are a cultural and historical landmark that many local residents are passionate about protecting. Given the prominent figures who have signed the letter, there's a significant local support for maintaining the rodeo grounds as a key part of Shasta County's social and cultural fabric. R4 is a presentation on the Opioid Litigation Settlement Funding, sponsored by Supervisor Cry. Shasta County, like many areas across the country, have been impacted by the opioid epidemic, and this funding offers an opportunity to invest in treatment programs, prevention efforts, and support for these affected by opioid addiction. How this county chooses to allocate these funds will be crucial in determining the long-term impact we can have in fighting the opioid crisis. Will the money go towards rehabilitation services, mental health support, or broader public health initiatives? This is something to watch closely because the decisions made here could shape our local response to the opioid epidemic for years to come. In R5, the board will adopt a proclamation designating September 2024 as Recovery Month in Shasta County. This is also sponsored by Supervisor Cry. This is an important acknowledgement of those who are on the journey of recovery from substance use disorders and the organizations that support them. It's a positive step, but as always, proclamations are only as good as the actions that follow. Let's hope that this month brings more attention and resources to the ongoing recovering efforts here in Shasta County, especially given the opioid crisis we've just discussed. Next, we have R6, where the Shasta Local Agency Formation Commission, LAFCO, will provide a presentation on their mission, activities, and accomplishments. This is sponsored by Supervisor Rickard. While this is just an informational item, LAFCO plays a key role in managing local governance, especially when it comes to overseeing the formation and growth of local governmental entities. Understanding LAFCO's work is important for anyone interested in how our local government structures operate and expand. So if that's your thing, pay close attention to this presentation. Finally, in R7, the board will consider the appointment of Mike Michalak as the District 2 representative to the Shasta County Elections Commission. Now, this has the potential to be a contentious vote. Supervisor Tim Garman's two previous nominees, Nathaniel Pinkney and myself, were rejected by the board majority, citing vague character concerns. Given the pattern we've seen with the board majority, this vote will be an important one to watch. Will they approve Michalak? Or is this another instance of blocking anyone who doesn't align with their political agenda? Let's see how this plays out. Typically, after the regular items, we have the public comment period. As I always say, this is a critical part of the meeting. This is the time for the community to speak on any issue within the jurisdiction of the board, including items on the consent calendar. As always, I encourage everyone to get involved and make your voices heard. If you plan on speaking, make sure you submit your speaker request card before the meeting starts at 9 a.m. Or you can email the clerk of the board. Now let's move on to the consent calendar. These items are typically considered routine, but as we always say, just because they're routine doesn't mean they're not important. First up is C1, which involves approving the fiscal year 2024-25 countywide tax rate and the tax rates for bond-sinking funds and voter-approved debt. This is a standard action which sets the property tax rate for the year, ensuring that the county can meet its financial obligations related to the bonds and debt service. These rates fund important infrastructure projects and public services, so while this item may not draw much attention, it's crucial to keeping the county running smoothly. Next, C2 adopts a proclamation designating September 17th through the 23rd, 2024 as Constitution Week in Shasta County, sponsored by Supervisor Patrick Jones. Now, this is an interesting one, given that Supervisor Jones has repeatedly shown disdain for constitutional values, like free speech during board meetings. He's interrupted, dismissed, and even mocked speakers he doesn't agree with, violating the very rights that the Constitution enshrines. The proclamation feels like a symbolic gesture that doesn't match up with Jones' actions in the chamber. We should keep this in mind when reflecting on what it really means to honor the Constitution and our local government. C3 is a relief of accountability for an unreconciled balance of $2,030.61 in the Social Services prepaid postage account. This may seem like a minor bureaucratic detail, but it's part of maintaining transparency in the county's finances. Essentially, this item allows the county to write up a small discrepancy in the Social Services postage account, saving the cost of trying to track down such a small sum. While routine, it's a reminder that every dollar counts, and the county should work to keep its financial house in order. Now, C4 is an important one. The board will approve a retroactive agreement with the California Department of Health Care Services for the transfer of intergovernment transfer, IGT revenue, not to exceed $9.8 million. This funding is critical for supporting Medi-Cal services in Shasta County. IGT allows the county to leverage federal funding to enhance local healthcare services. This agreement ensures that essential services, especially for low-income residents, can continue without disruption. Given the healthcare challenges in rural areas like Shasta County, this funding is a lifeline for keeping the most vulnerable populations cared for. Without it, the county's healthcare system would face serious gaps and service delay. Now, I'd like to spend a moment on C9, which renews a retroactive agreement with the Shasta County Office of Education, SCOE, for the Community Connect program, totaling nearly $254,000. This program focuses on reducing and preventing adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, traumatic events like abuse and neglect that can have devastating effects on children. During the August 27th meeting, Kevin Cry made the decision to deny full retroactive funding for the program and voted only to tentatively fund it for 6 months. This means the program's funding will have to be revisited again during this meeting. Abruptly altering or limiting the funding for such a critical program mid-year creates a lot of uncertainty for the families who rely on it. The Community Connect program has been an essential resource for children and families, providing mental health services, educational support, and family counseling to prevent long-term trauma. By tentatively limiting its funding, we risk leaving families without the consistent support they need to recover from the impact of ACEs. These services are not easily replaced, and sudden changes in the funding can disrupt the stability these families desperately need. It's crucial that the board fully funds this program to ensure the continuity of care for families already struggling with trauma. Any further delays or reductions could have severe consequences for the well-being of Shasta County's children and families. Now let's discuss R8, which will be covered in closed session. The board is set to discuss public employee appointments for 2 major positions, the public defender and the director of resource management. Let's start with the public defender. This role is absolutely essential for ensuring that low-income individuals receive the legal representation they're entitled to under the law. However, that's been a growing concern over how political motivations may affect this appointment. We've seen how the current board majority has handled other key appointments and the influence of Supervisor Patrick Jones and Kevin Cry in many of these processes. The public defender's office must be led by someone impartial, committed to justice, and not beholden to any political faction. The wrong appointment could have serious consequences for the fairness of the legal system in Shasta County. On the other hand, we also have the Director of Resource Management appointment, which has massive implications for how the county manages its land use, environmental health, and infrastructure development. Patrick Jones has an extensive history of attacking the Resource Management Department and infamously leveraged his position as supervisor to get land he owns in Millville rezoned for his gun range project. Resource management shapes everything from how building permits are handled to the environmental regulations that the developers must follow. Based on recent actions, there is concern that the board might prioritize someone more aligned with their agenda, potentially ignoring environmental concerns or pushing development projects through without adequate oversight. There's also an ongoing worry that Supervisor Patrick Jones and his allies may use these appointments to further their control over county operations. Appointments like these might seem routine on the surface, but in a county already facing significant challenges with development, infrastructure, and public services, who fill these roles will greatly impact how these challenges are addressed. We've got some important issues on the table this week, from healthcare funding to support for vulnerable families and key public appointments. It's important to get involved, stay informed on how these decisions will affect our community. If you can't make the meeting, consider emailing the board directly with your questions or concerns. And that's the agenda preview.